Good evening. You're listening to a Strong Style Podcast. I'm James.
And I'm Todd. And on today's episode, we are going to be going over every member of the NWO stateside because I can't pronounce half of the fucking Japan people's names. But we are going to go through every member that joined in the States, and we're going to go over the individual groups that they were in. And we're going to go through each one of these, and as I go through them, we're going to give our opinion and, how they fit in the group. Not necessarily their entire career body of work, but if they actually fit in the group and if it was, a decision that we would have put or we would have made.
Right.
So, without further ado, as most of you people know, that Scott Hall and Kevin Nash's contract was up in WWF, and they got in contact with WCW. Eric Bischoff brought them in. They were treated as outsiders, which is why they took that name. It was intended to be a hostile takeover from guys defecting from the WWF, but at the time, people were like, no, they still work for WWF. That's Razor and Diesel, and they're down here wanting to take shit over because they want a war.
Hence why they kept doing their poses and everything.
Yep, and at Bash at the Beach, well, let me back up a little bit. At Great American Bash, they wanted to clarify this, and Eric Bischoff had an interview and straight up asked them, do they work for WWF, blah, blah, blah. They both said no, and this was mainly to avoid lawsuits. And that's where we pretty much figured out that at Bash at the Beach, the main event was going to be these two guys and a mystery partner versus three of the best WCW had to offer. And we would be finding out on Monday Nitro who those three guys would be. So we found out that it was going to be the Macho Man Randy Savage, it was going to be the total package Lex Luger, and it was going to be the man called Sting.
Sting!
So we go to Bash at the Beach 1996, which took place July 7th. And, it pretty much was a handicap match in the very beginning until Luger, they done a gimmick where Luger supposedly got knocked out and he was taken off and turned into a regular tag match, which I thought was a pretty good, brilliant way of doing it. And then, out of nowhere, the Hulkster appeared. And Bobby the Brain Heenan, being the asshole sometimes he was,
Almost gave it away.
He did give it away.
He did give it away.
Dusty Rhodes had to be, what are you talking about? And then, of course, the leg drop happened, and professional wrestling changed from that point on. So, we are going to start with the original three members. First, we're going to start with Scott Hall, and I start with, when the NWO was actually formed, which was July 7th at Bash at the Beach, 1996. So, Scott Hall, first member.
Yeah, I think he was a perfect fit.
I do too. I think that he was his Razor Ramon gimmick was so over that I think they needed kind of a baby face. Because when he first came into the company, I mean, he was getting cheered, He was getting cheered because people thought, oh, that's Razor.
He's so cool.
Yeah,
that's why. He's that guy you wanted to be.
He's the bad guy. Yeah. He's the cool bad guy.
Yeah, he's the cool bad guy. Machismo, man. Machismo. Just oozing it.
Second member, Kevin Nash.
Absolute perfect fit.
Yeah, Kevin Nash,
big man.
Again, coming off of WWF television, being the longest reigning WWF champion in the 90s.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, and, the last time that we saw this guy, he was in a main event. Of course, I'm not talking about the curtain call. I'm actually talking about televised main event. He was challenging Shawn Michaels in a no-holds-barred match at In Your House, which was a great fucking match.
Yeah, I mean, these were all main event players, and plus, you have like the big main and the medium main, it just fits.
And, we didn't talk about this, but at that Great American Bash, one of the big major things that happened was they did powerbomb Eric Bischoff off the stage, and you didn't get shit like that in either WWF or WCW at that time. So
yeah,
that was a pretty big deal. And then, of course, Hogan being the third man.
He, love him or hate him, I mean, he was very detrimental to the popularity of them being a heel group.
Yeah.
It couldn't have worked with anybody else. I love Sting. And
yeah,
even though Sting was supposed to be the original person,
it would have
never been as big.
There's nobody. If Bret Hart would have left the WWF a year earlier and came in and he was the third guy, it wouldn't have worked.
No.
Sting, it wouldn't have worked.
No.
Hogan was the perfect guy because Hogan, up until that point, was the main face.
Yeah, he was the ultimate baby face.
Yeah. It wouldn't even worked with Ric Flair simply because Flair was already a heel.
No. Yeah, you couldn't have done it with anybody else. It wouldn't have been as impactful as it was. And then them as a trio was dynamic.
Yeah.
It was fucking print money now.
And the next member to join was August 26, 1996. And it was Ted DiBiase.
Yeah. I know they brought him in to be a mouthpiece, but you had three guys that really don't need nobody to speak for them. I didn't think, I love Ted DiBiase, but not as a manager for him.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he was fucking pointless.
I think he was just to drive home the fact that they were still sticking with this former WWF type of deal, and they still wanted to put over that this was a war for WWF guys taking over.
I guess. It just didn't work for me.
The next member joined September 2nd, 1996, and it was the Giant.
Once again, I mean, you already got Nash. Now you got two big men. It was pointless.
I disagree. I think you suck. I think your opinions suck. And I think you should eat fish heads.
Fuck you and you eat fish heads. No, it was fucking pointless. You already have Kevin Nash in the fucking group. Why do you need another fucking big man in it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe later on when they split, the Giant would have been, well, they did use him when they split later on, and both sides had kind of a big man. But yeah, I guess that's why the Giant didn't kind of last long, because he was only in there for 4 or 5 months until they turned him back into WCW.
See, that's my point, is that you could have taken that 4 or 5 months and poured into him and made him, no pun intended, a larger-than-life superstar.
Yeah, and the fact that the Giant kind of LeBron James this.
Jumping back and forth?
Well, he got beat by Hollywood, and he realized he couldn't beat him, so he joined them.
Yeah.
Or should I say Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
The next member was the NWO Sting.
That's how I feel about that.
I didn't mind the NWO Sting.
I mean, it worked for when, some people actually thought it was Sting at first. He did do a good job of copy and paste, but I feel the same way about Fake Razor and Diesel.
I don't know. I think this was a little bit better than Fake Razor and Diesel.
Well, it had more of a point to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the NWO was all about, hey, if they lost a match. The next night on Nitro, they act like it never happened.
Yeah.
So,
I
in a way, it was comedic.
Jesus Christ. I wonder if this is where Tony Khan gets his fucking booking from.
And the fact that the NWO Sting was still doing the colorful face paint and wearing the colorful jackets, and the real Sting was kind of like doing black and white, the colors of the NWO.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of hilarious.
That is kind of funny thinking about it now.
And he joined September 9th, 1996. And the next guy, September 16th, 1996, was Six.
Okay. I really don't have a problem with Six, X-Pac, Sean Walkman, whatever the hell you want to call him. You needed kind of that little guy, you know, that little chihuahua running his mouth of the group, greaseball. I think that's a pretty good fit. Pretty much what he did in DX, but less in NWO. He got more of a chance to be that kind of character in DX.
Yeah.
He kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Well, you know, if they would have stuck to this little Wolfpack deal, which they did for a little while, I don't know, man. He was wrestling like Ric Flair in main events and shit. So,
yeah, that's above his pay grade.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, would you rather wrestle Ric Flair for the U.S. title on Hog Wild or wrestle D'Lo Brown for the European title in the opening match?
I mean, me personally, I'd rather be wrestling Ric Flair.
Well, you know, you'd probably get a better match out of D'Lo at that point, but still, right. Flair is Flair. It's the name-wise. It's not necessarily quality. A lot of guys don't give a shit about quality of match.
Yeah.
Next guy, September 23rd, 1996. Vincent.
I love this button.
Yeah, I was never a fan of Virgil at all. I always thought he sucked. He was, I mean, he's good to sacrifice. He took good choke slams, mainly because he couldn't control it.
Yeah, I thought he fucking was a drizzling shits. You think Norman Smiley's bad? Fuck, at least he had the big wiggle.
Well, Norman Smiley could wrestle. He was just boring. Vinceman couldn't wrestle.
No.
He was literally, I think, his entire career in WCW, he was there for 5-6 years.
Too long.
You might have had.
You couldn't wrestle your wiener out of your underwear if you were trying.
And he might have had 4 or 5 matches at the most.
You shouldn't have had that many.
The next member was September 30th, 1996, and this was, she was forced in the group. It was Miss Elizabeth.
I was about to hit the button on her, but I mean, I think it's always good to have like that female like chaperone character in your stable.
Well, the only reason that she was put into the group was to drive Randy Savage insane.
Yeah.
Because she came out with Bischoff, and Bischoff was kind of the one that like brought her into the group. She was a reluctant member of the group.
Yeah, I mean, she had a purpose, so I can't knock her for being in the NWO. At least it was like some purpose behind her, unlike fucking Virgil.
Yeah, Virgil was just Vincent. Yeah, he was just brought in to just basically. So I want to mention these guys. These guys were in the group for like a week. And that was the Nasty Boys. They joined October 7th, 1996. And a week later, on October 14th, 1996, they were kicked out of the group.
Yeah, well. Sorry, buddy. Y'all didn't. They didn't fit anyway.
No, I don't think they fit anyway. You had Hall and Nash. You didn't need another tag team at that point.
No.
The next guy, October 27th, 1996, was referee Nick Patrick.
Yeah. Here, let me. Yeah. No need for a fucking referee. That just.
I disagree. 125 fucking percent.
Okay, explain.
Because the NWO was supposed to be a separate entity. They were supposed to be a group. They were supposed to be a organization that was trying to be better than WCW. So they needed a referee.
Okay, and then as a person watching this, and you see this referee, and you know he's with the NWO, right? You know that he is going to try to fuck over the other person.
That was the point.
Well, people were going to get mad and turn off because they know the face is going to get fucked regardless.
But they didn't.
I'm just saying.
They didn't.
He's pointless as a member.
You're thinking it back now, but at the time, it didn't. While this was going on, they fucking took the ball and ran.
It's pointless.
No.
It's pointless.
You're wrong on that.
Go ahead and give the fucking broomstick an NWO shirt, too, so we can figure out what to do with that. Oh, we're going to shove this up his ass and make him look like a turkey.
No, you're wrong. You're stupid.
No, you're stupid.
You're fucking idiot.
You're a fucking nincompoop.
You're a fucking... Anyway.
You're wrong!
The next member, November 18th, 1996, it was revealed Eric Bischoff was behind the whole fucking deal.
I'm not going to hit the button on that one.
Yeah, because if you do, you'd be a fucking retard.
Yeah. I mean, what better way to, like, piss off, you know... It's almost like when Hogan turned heel, then you find out Bischoff's in it too. It's just that extra, you know, heat.
And just so everybody can put this in perspective, Eric Bischoff, being the head of the company, done this 3 fucking years before Vince McMahon became Mr. McMahon. So if anybody wants to tell you that Bischoff turning to the NWO was copying Vince McMahon, they're full of shit, because this happened 3 years before that.
Right.
So if anything, it's the opposite way. So
they
can suck a big goddamn black dick if they say that.
Oh, wow. We can't say that.
Yeah. Fuck them. Anyway, let's see here. November 25th, 1996. A little guy named Marcus Alexander Bagwell that was christened Buff the Stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to hit the button on him.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed him. I thought he fit with Papa Pump.
Yeah.
Kind of like the little Papa Pump protege.
Yeah, he needed to push. I mean, he'd been busting his ass in WCW, and he'd been a part of a couple tag teams, won some gold, but he hadn't really gotten over too much, and this was the kick in the ass that he needed. I mean, when he became buff, his charisma shot through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
And,
he benefited from being in the NWO.
Yeah, he definitely benefited. Next member was December 9th, 1996, and this was VK Wall Street.
Pointless.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on this. VK Wall Street, the former IRS, he was floundering and really didn't have anything to do. So, and he was a former star in WWF, and that was the reason why they put him in here.
Yeah.
That's the only reason, but he did not fit. And now that I think about it, they had kind of a golden opportunity to kind of make DiBiase kind of accompany him to ringside, and they never did.
Yeah, that's
which was
weird.
Fucking stupid, because seeing the history between these guys, and of course, some people call him Michael Wall Street, but they always announced him as VK Wall Street to take a shot at Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
So, the next member was December 16th, 1996, and it was Big Bubba. Yep.
That's how I feel about that, because they didn't fucking use him right.
No.
Wasted potential.
Considering the fact that the NWO had already attacked him beforehand.
Yeah.
and then he kind of like...
If you can't beat them, join them.
And he went from one group to another, because he was in the Dungeon of Doom, and he went, same... The Giant did the same thing, but, of course, he was positioned better on the card.
I feel like he just didn't know what to do with himself, without his big boss man gimmick.
Well, they didn't do him any favors. I mean, he'd been feuding with fucking Hacksaw Jim Duggan and John Tenta and all these other people that, he had the craziest career when he came back to WCW, when he came back in like 1993, he was wrestling like Rick Rude and all this stuff, and then the controversy with the name, we couldn't call him the Boss anymore, and then he went by the Guardian Angel, which was fucking stupid. And then finally, he just went back to his Big Bubba Rogers gimmick that he had in Crockett when he was the bodyguard for Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express, which seemed to work out very well. I mean, for the couple of months there, he was wrestling Sting and Randy Savage, wrestled Hogan on the first ever edition of Monday Nitro, and then after that, it was just like nothing. He just went down and down and down into the card until they eventually put him in the Dungeon of Doom, and Dungeon of Doom was shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it was shit.
Yeah. It was the drizzling shits.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him because he is a very damn good wrestler too. Like he just got dealt a shitty hand of cards.
Yeah. And if you remember correctly, he was one of these guys that really didn't get kicked out of the NWO. He was found like unconscious. You remember that storyline where like a couple members were found unconscious and we never know who did it?
Yeah.
And I think it turned out to be like, I think it was Diamond Dallas Page. Diamond cutted them on like concrete, and they were... So anyway, like he came back to the company, and his whole gimmick was, hey, the NWO didn't give a shit about me when I got taken out. So now I'm just going by Ray Traylor, my real name, and I'm going to join the fight to fuck over the NWO.
He looked like shit too.
Yeah, he did look like shit when he came back.
Yeah.
Next member, December 16th, the same night, 1996, and this was Scott Norton.
Okay, not going to hit the button on that. I thought he fit the NWO very well as like the kind of meathead powerhouse.
Yeah, he was a big, nasty bastard anyway, and he wasn't going to get over on his own because he has no personality.
Yeah, no, he benefited from being in the NWO.
Yeah, I think it was wasted potential with him and Buff Bagwell, to be honest with you. But of course, they didn't get to do their stuff for too long until Buff got his neck injury. So
yeah.
But yeah, he benefited just like Buff.
That's where Ted could have been used as being a mouthpiece for him. But
Yeah, I think it would have been a whole lot better to use Ted DiBiase for some of these lower card guys that could not really talk all that well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you wanted to get them over that way, when you break up the NWO, these guys are still over individually.
Yeah.
But, no.
And that same night, December 16th, 1996, we got our first international member when Masahiro Chono told Sonny Ono to go eat rice and fuck off.
I don't know how I feel about this.
I liked it. I think it was, at the time, New Japan and WCW had a working relationship.
I guess it was necessary for that time,
Well, like I said, they had a working relationship, and, this was one of those deals where they were going to expand the NWO, and they were going to do it international. And like I said, I'm not going over every member of NWO Japan, but they sent Chono and Scott Norton, Buff Bagwell, the NWO Sting, VK Wall Street. They sent them over Japan for, if they didn't have any for those lower card guys over, on Nitro or whatever, they sent them to Japan for a couple years or a couple months to get that NWO gimmick over there.
Yeah. I guess that's when it's like necessary because...
And that was the last member of 1996. So the first, you know, that was what, from June to December. That was all your members from 1996. Now, the first guy from 1997 to join was February 23rd, and that was the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah, I like Macho joining. I thought it was awesome. Like, me being a Macho Man fan.
Well, Macho Man joining the NWO was kind of one of these things where he embraced it, but it was kind of out of a storyline where after Halloween Havoc 1996, where Randy Savage challenged Hollywood Hogan and lost, Eric Bischoff, being the vice president, fired Savage and wouldn't let him back into wrestling. And the behind-the-scenes storyline was the only way that he could come back to wrestling is if he joined the NWO.
Yeah.
And they promised him that if he joined the NWO, you know, he could come back to wrestling and he would be reunited with Elizabeth. And that's basically what happened, because if you remember, he hung out with Sting for a little while in the rafters.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
That was the time period where, you know, everybody thought that he was going to be, you know, kind of that loner with Sting, but turns out he was just thinking about his decision and what he was going to do.
Yeah, I mean, at least it was like storyline driven. It wasn't just to add a member because of their popularity.
And then May 26, 1997, the second international member was revealed, and this was a pretty big one. It was the Great Muta.
Yeah, definitely not hitting the fucking button on that one.
Yeah, I think the Great Muta was a great addition. Of course, I only mentioned Chono and Muta because they were the only two Japan members to join in the United States.
Yeah.
And that tells you that, you know, how big they were in the United States as well.
Yeah.
Chono, you know, had been wrestling in the United States before. He actually beat Ravishing Rick Rude for the international world title back in the day. So there was a big feud with him and Rude. And Muta, I mean, former WCW television champ back in late 80s, early 90s. One of those, you know, four guys that pretty much kept WCW afloat in the late 80s, early 90s. It was Muta, Sting, Luger, and Flair that pretty much kept the company.
Yeah. No, Muta is definitely a great addition, you know. He definitely appeals to the American audience, and then, you know, of course, that popularity goes over to, you know, Japan also. So it's, you know, it's a win-win in that situation for Muta to be in the NWO.
Yeah. The next guy, July 14th, 1997, it's Conan.
Fuck Conan.
Yeah, I
fuck him. He's a sorry sack of shit. Orale, suck on my balls.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
I don't like Conan as a wrestler.
You faggot.
You can't say that. Like, you can say anything, but you cannot say that.
Yeah, I did.
You can't say that.
I don't care.
You probably
Fuck
need
him.
to stop it and erase it.
No, fuck him.
Idiot.
You're
now I
idiot.
got to go through these goddamn 82 guys all over again. No,
no, fuck him.
Conan, I've never been a fan of Conan. I always thought that he was rather lazy in the ring, I thought.
Yeah, his shit looked sloppy. Like, he was just like, I don't know if he's trying to be cool about it or being lazy about it, but everything looked fucking trash. Dumpster fire.
The next member, September 14th, 1997, and it was Kurt Hennig.
Not going to hit the button. Well, I should hit the button because they didn't use him like they could have.
Yeah, they did.
Nah, they could have used him. He could have been bigger.
Well, yeah, he could have been bigger, but, I mean, he was a United States champion.
Yeah, but they could have built him up and then had him, like, turn on Hogan or something and put him in the world title.
Nobody was going to be bigger than Hogan.
I'm not saying he's going to be bigger than Hogan, but you could have put him up on a level of Hogan.
Maybe.
Like using the NWO as a catapult, besides sticking him in the mid-card.
Yeah, I get that. But, at this point in his career, he was still putting on pretty good matches, but I don't know if he was that perfect caliber.
Eat shit.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
You suck.
You suck.
I need another co-host.
Co-host these nuts.
Fuck you. November 17th, 1997, and it is Ravishing Rick Rude.
Yeah, that's another blunder. Did nothing with him.
Well, they put him with Kurt Hennig.
Because they didn't know what else to do with him. They just add members to add members at this point.
Well, he was the only member to be on Nitro and Raw at the same time during the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah. Wasted potential.
The next one was January 15th, 1998, and it was Louis Spagoli. Yeah, he didn't last too long, mainly because he died the very next month.
Jesus Christ.
I mean...
By the way, I'm 7.
Yeah, the most I remember him doing was being kind of like a flunky for Scott Hall. That was it.
Yeah, he's a flash in the pan from what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, he assistant Scott Hall, and when Scott Hall was having his little beef with Larry Sabisco, that's it.
Yeah.
The next member was January 24th, 1998, and it was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, that was fucking... I'm not going to hit the button because he's the Dream, but...
Well, I mean, it was he joined at Sold Out 1998, and it was during oddly enough, the Scott Hall-Larry Sabisco match, and... Scott Hall had Spagoli in his corner, and Sabisco was going to have a mystery person in his corner, and it ended up being Dusty Rhodes. He was doing commentary that night, and he said, "I'll be right back, boys." So Bobby Heenan and Schiavone went apeshit going, "Oh, well, the American Dream is back at ringside and this and that," and then, of course, he turns on Sabisco, and... You have to hear the commentary to this, especially Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone is fucking awesome anyway, but he acted like he was going to cry. He took the headphones off. "I can't do this. You're going to have to do it alone, Brain. You're going to have to give me a few minutes to do this, blah, blah, blah. I've known Dusty for a long, long time. What the fuck is he doing?" Shit like that. They treated it like it was a big deal. And, it was kind of sad because I enjoy listening to Dusty on commentary because he gives that little flavor. It's just that combination of Bobby Heenan, Tony Schiavone, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, they just worked well off each other. But, it's not like he was managing the lower of the lower guys. I mean, he came out with Scott Hall. He came out with Kevin Nash. He came out with those guys. So,
yeah, it was pointless. They didn't need him.
February 16th, 1998, we have the former Crush coming in, Bryan Adams. All right, you're the one not pleased with this, so you explain. You don't know shit.
Eat my fucking asshole.
You probably can't remember last week rather than fucking 25 years ago.
You know what? You can fucking suck one till it gets soft, you piece of shit. No, they didn't fucking do anything with him. He got lost in the shuffle like the rest of them. He is wasted potential.
Yeah.
That's why I hit the fucking button on him, is because he could have been a bigger name than he should have. He could have been that top tier competitor. For the title. But no, anybody that they thought was a fucking threat or anything, he stuck him in NWO and put him in the fucking mid-card so you'd forget about him.
Yeah, I think his time with Chronic was better than his time with the NWO.
That I agree with you, 120%.
February 22nd, 1998. Scott Steiner.
Not hitting the button on this.
Yeah. When he appeared the next night with short hair and it was blonde and all this other shit, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
But it helped his career so fucking much.
Yeah.
And
NWO really revitalized his career.
Yeah, and it took people were so fucking into Rick Steiner versus Scott Steiner at this time. Yeah. Which I don't think WCW really ever gave us a straight up. It was always bullshit endings. It was, I remember they were supposed to fight each other at Hog Wild or Road Wild, and Steiner came out there on a fucking gurney.
Yeah.
Talking about, I can't do this. And J.J. Dillon was like, okay, we're going to reschedule this at Fall Brawl. And if Scott Steiner doesn't show up and fight his brother, then he will be barred from wrestling for life. And he popped up out of the gurney, and there was nothing wrong with him. And then the Fall Brawl match happened, and it was going great. And then Buff jumped up on the apron, and Rick threw him into the turnbuckle, and Buff went down grabbing his neck, playing off the neck injury.
Yeah. And
it was 10 minutes. They loaded him up, put him in the ambulance, and it was a real moment there for a minute. And Rick Steiner was like, anybody call his mom, tell him what happened, whatever. And then they, of course, jump out of the ambulance and beat the shit out of Rick. And, I remember that because Buff looked into the camera and said, ha ha ha, I was bullshitting you. And I think what they did at Halloween Havoc, I think it was Scott and the Giant, and they might have just taken on Rick in a handicap match. I just remember the Giant doing a fucking missile drop kick off the top rope, and Scott was holding Rick, and Rick got out of the way, and Scott took the missile drop kick from the fucking Giant.
Holy shit, I remember that.
But yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not going to knock that because Scott, he became a superstar.
Well, the next night, February 23rd, 1998, get your buzzer ready.
I'm ready.
It is The Disciple.
No.
The former beefcake booty man fucking butcher.
Zebra cake.
Yeah, old Zebra Cake Zodiac himself.
Booty man. Fuck him. He only got in there because he's friends with Hogan, and he let Hogan fuck his wife.
Pretty much. Beefcake always sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, he sucked.
Beefcake.
Bischoff don't even like him.
Yeah. He just looks like a piece of shit.
So, August 24th, 1998... Here was a kind of a shocker. It was Stevie Ray.
Did nothing with him.
Yeah, they really didn't do anything with him. I think at the time he was probably supposed to feud with his brother, but Booker T had an injury at that time, and they didn't know what to fucking do with Stevie Ray, so they just put him in the NWO.
Yeah. That's fucking pointless.
That's basically it.
They should have just made him a singles competitor.
I mean, what was the highlight of his NWO career? Being in the War Games, 98?
Yeah.
That was basically it.
That's the only thing I can think of.
The next member, October 26, 1998. Get your buzzer ready. It's the dreadful Horace Hogan. Yeah,
that's the sound of your heads exploding from the awfulness.
Yeah, he was bad. He sucked.
God damn, man. Fucking drizzling shits.
You remember when they brought him in, though?
Vaguely.
They brought him in as a member of the Flock.
Oh, yeah. That's right. They did.
And they just called him Horace. But then it was revealed when he joined the NWO, he was actually the nephew of Hulk Hogan.
Oh, brother, come to the dark side to get your paycheck.
The next member was May 25th, 1998, and this was not the original group. This was Lex Luger joining the Wolfpack.
I didn't hate that. I thought he kind of fit in the Wolfpack.
Yeah, the Wolfpack was a babyface group, so the next competitor was June 1st, 1998, and it was Sting. The real Sting.
I didn't like it at the time, but now going back and looking at it, he made it cool to me.
Yeah, being myself right now, I wouldn't have put Lex Luger or Sting in the Wolfpack.
No.
I would
have.
I would have taken the existing NWO, and I would have basically put the cool guys. My Wolfpack would have been Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Randy Savage, maybe Conan, and I don't know, maybe. Yeah, he was already fired from the company at the time,
that's
but
right.
If he was there, definitely 6. But if he's not, I don't know, maybe. I mean,
Scott?
No, I think Scott was better as a full-blown heel. Maybe Buff.
Buff could work.
I mean, as good as Buff and Scott was together, I think Buff had the personality where he could get over on his own as a babyface because of his charisma.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Like, a part of me believes that they put Buff with Scott because Scott has never been a great promo. He just yells and says whatever. Yeah. He just yells whatever comes to his mind. And Buff has always been a good promo. So
yeah, I always enjoyed his promo work.
All right, you ready for the next one? January 4th, 1999.
Got my buzzer ready.
The tremendous and legendary Disco Inferno.
Actually, hang on. He gets 2. Fuck Disco Inferno.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
If you want to make your group as lame as possible, you put Disco Inferno in.
Yeah. Talking about killing a gimmick quick.
Yeah. The next person, we're going to do these people together. Both of these guys joined February 21st, 1999. And I think it was just because of a storyline. They didn't stay long. But it was David Flair and Torrie Wilson.
Wretched.
Yeah, they were, I guess Torrie was the valet for David at the time. And I guess it was when David was first doing his I'm going crazy gimmick.
The wrong son died.
Yeah. And
going to hell for that one.
You know,
I wasn't good.
No,
he's fucking terrible, man.
Yeah, he always sucked. I mean, and Torrie Wilson didn't do a goddamn thing in wrestling except look the way she did. That's it.
Yeah.
I have no fucking
a twat with 2 legs is all she was.
I have no use for neither one of them.
No.
Now we get to December 20th, 1999. Bret Hart. This was the last incarnation of the NWO and WCW.
Bret Hart didn't need to be in the NWO.
Yes, nobody needed to be in the NWO in the year 2000.
No.
That includes this next guy, December 20th, 1999, Jeff Jarrett.
Man, this button's getting its work out today.
Jeff Jarrett, again, I don't hate Jeff Jarrett like other people do, But just like Bret Hart, he did not need to be in this group because this group did not need to exist.
Okay, let's talk about Jeff Jarrett for a moment. Why do people hate Jeff Jarrett so much? I don't understand. Like, what
people have taken Mike Graham, which killed himself, by the way, thank God. They have taken his statement. They think it's so fucking cool that he said, well, this guy broke 1,000 guitars and never sold one goddamn ticket. They think that line is so fucking cool, and that's what they apply to Jeff Jarrett.
But it's bullshit. Jeff Jarrett is a damn good worker. He's great in the ring. Like, I mean, he's
still.
He's still putting on damn good matches. Like, I don't understand the fucking hate towards him.
For all
I'm not saying that he's a fucking Ric Flair, but he's goddamn solid.
For all you AEW apologists out there that think that company is so head and shoulders above WWE, you just had Jeff Jarrett on your show wrestling. So, how do you think about that? Slap nuts.
It's bullshit. Like, I don't understand the hate for this guy. This guy has been willing to put over people and make stars. Granted, he was a little bit greedy in the early days of TNA, but goddamn, he still made sure that the X Division was highlighted on the card and got fucking popular.
He had to be. He was the only guy he could trust. He wasn't the first NWA TNA champion.
I know he wasn't, but I'm saying, like, he still tried to elevate people.
Yeah.
Like, and he still put, like, the X Division on showcase, like, as the spectacle. Like, over the like, even though there was a title match, he made sure that the X Division was as important as the title match.
Well, I mean, you don't have to convince me. We're talking about a guy who, AJ Styles was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4-time NWA champion, and 3 of those times he beat Jeff Jarrett. So Jeff Jarrett dropped the belt to AJ Styles at least 3 of those times.
Right. I just don't understand the fucking hate. Like, it pisses me off because I feel like he really, truly does care about this fucking business.
Yeah.
And he does want, wrestling to be taken seriously like it should, as like
he's a wrestler.
Yeah.
He's a wrestler's wrestler.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
And I guess that's why I care about him, because I still do care about professional wrestling, because it's always been a love of mine, and it always will be. And I just don't want to see it go down the shithole, and I thought it couldn't get any fucking worse, and I'm afraid it is getting worse.
Yeah, and we must mention that before Bret joined the NWO, in 1998, he was never a member of NWO Hollywood, but he was an associate member. So let's point that out. Also, Barry Windham was an associate. I said associate.
Yeah, but
that was an improper use of that button.
No, it was
you
very
suck dick.
You suck dick. Suck my dick.
And let me finish my thought before you turn this into a goddamn waste of my time.
You're a waste of time.
Barry Windham was an associate member. He started teaming up with Kurt Hennig. You don't take this seriously at all, do you?
I'm having fun.
I think you should take it down. I quit. Fucking idiot.
All right, Stone Cold.
He
go home.
He started teaming up with Kurt Hennig, and they both kind of left the group, and they formed the West Texas Rednecks. Not soon after that. But anyway, let's get back to the last 2 people from WCW, and that was Ron and Don Harris, the Harris Boys. Yeah. They were, I think at the time they were, what did they call them, Creative Control?
Yeah, something stupid.
They came out in like suit and ties, and
they should have not came out in suit and ties.
Listen, I don't care if we're talking about the Blue Brothers or whatever else they were called. Ron and Don Harris always sucked ass.
Yeah, I've never found them entertaining at all.
No, that's about all I'm going to spend on them.
Stiff and plain.
And finally, we're going to talk about some celebrities that made some appearances in WCW. Kyle Petty drove the NWO NASCAR, and they used him a couple times. And, of course, Dennis Rodman, NBA player, came in and had a few matches with the NWO, and basically juvenated a lot of publicity and a lot of money for him. So
yeah, I can't hate on Dennis Rodman because like what he did worked, and I would say he was pretty serious about it. He wanted it to get over.
Yeah,
and it did, and it worked for me as a kid. And like going back and watching it now, I still enjoy watching it. So that's a bonus for me.
All right, we only got 2 guys left.
Oh boy!
As official members of NWO.
Should I get my button ready?
Not
fucker.
Probably not the guys, but maybe the way it was presented. I don't know. We get into the WWE guys.
Oh,
and
boy.
May 13th, 2002, Booker T.
There's no fucking point in him being in the NWO at that point.
There was no point for Booker T being in the NWO at all. And the last member was June 3rd, 2002, and it was Shawn Michaels.
Once again, no point in being in the NWO. He did not benefit at all from it.
Well, my only gripe about Shawn Michaels being in it is that he was only in it for like a month before they disbanded, and that was because Kevin Nash fucking tore his quad again.
Quadzilla.
And, it would have been interesting to see where they would go. I mean, maybe if Kevin Nash would have not injured himself, Shawn would have never, came back to the ring because he was basically serving ringside. Maybe they were working towards getting him back into the ring.
It's possible, but
I don't know. I enjoyed the Triple H storyline a lot better. It fit better for WWF because these were DX guys.
Yeah.
Shawn was making appearances. Somebody jumped Shawn. Somebody beat up Shawn, and Triple H vowed to find out who was gonna, who it was. He was gonna find it, and the whole time it was him.
Yeah.
And this brought Shawn Michaels out of retirement.
Yeah, I didn't think the WWE needed to bring back the NWO. It was fucking pointless. It was a cash grab.
I think after they brought Scott, Kevin, and Hulk back, and after that WrestleMania, and after, basically Hogan, lost to The Rock, and instead of jumping him, he actually shook The Rock's hand, which made Scott and Kevin mad. That should have been the end of the NWO.
I mean, yeah, I guess I can agree with that.
I mean, but they ended up. Let's talk about the NWO. That was the first version of WWE. It was Hogan, Hall, and Nash. It ended after WrestleMania 18, and then NWO WWE 2 was Nash, Hall, X-Pac, Big Show, Booker T, and Shawn Michaels.
Ugh.
And honestly, the only memorable thing from version 2 was Shawn Michaels super kicking Booker T, kicking him out of the group. That's the only thing that I really remember.
I remember a couple skits with Booker T, but vaguely.
Yeah.
It's not memorable by no means.
Well, the only thing that I say that was good about this is because it led to Booker and Goldust hanging out.
Yeah,
because
that was a very weird but great tag team.
Like I remember Big Show in the NWO shirt on the couch.
Yeah.
And Goldust dressed up like Steve Irwin, going, "Crikey, look at him sitting there sleeping on the couch, and boy does he smell."
Yeah, that was some good Goldust shit. Some good shit, pal.
But anyway, basically, we have a couple subgroups, and we're going to go over. We talked about the NWO Wolfpack, right? Kevin Nash, Conan, Randy Savage, Lex Luger, and Sting was the final group. But when it first started, if you remember, Kurt Hennig and Ravishing Rick Rude was in it. Buff, I think, was Buff? I can't remember. I know Kurt Hennig and Ravishing Rick Rude was they first took Nash's side at first, but then I remember they turned on Conan and joined back with NWO Hollywood. But the final result was Nash, Randy Savage, Conan, Lex Luger, and Sting. That was your Wolfpack. Your NWO Hollywood was Hogan, Bischoff, Disciple, Bryan Adams, Scott Steiner, Vincent, Giant, Scott Hall, Dusty Rhodes, the NWO Sting, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude, Buff Bagwell, Scott Norton, Stevie Ray, and Horace Hogan. That was your NWO Hollywood group. Then you had your NWO Elite, and this is the direct responsibility of the finger poke of doom.
Ew.
Hogan, Nash, Hall, Bischoff, Luger, Bagwell, Scott Steiner, Miss Elizabeth, Disco Inferno, David Flair, and Torrie Wilson.
And this was called the NWO Elite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bucks, you didn't think of it first.
And then you had the NWO Black and White, also known as the NWO B Team. These were the guys that were not cool enough to join the Elite. And that was the Giant, Stevie Ray, Kurt Hennig, Vincent, Scott Norton, Bryan Adams, and Horace Hogan.
That's how I feel about that group.
Yep. Of course, you had NWO Japan, and I'm not going over and butcher these names, so yay, Japan. Then you had NWO 2000, which we completely hated, which was Bret Hart, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Jeff Jarrett, Scott Steiner, and the Harris Boys. And those are your groups of the NWO, and we went over the WWE versions at the beginning, so.
Ew.
That is your history of members and groups of the NWO.
For life, brother. Yeah. A lot of wasted potential.
Even though I feel differently about the Wolfpack today as I did back then.
What do you feel differently about?
I feel that Lex Luger and Sting never should have joined any incarnation of the NWO.
You think they should have been WCW?
I think especially Sting. Sting never should have put on an NWO shirt. I don't care if the Wolfpack was technically good guys. I mean, yes, it worked at the time, and because I was the age I was at, I liked it.
Right.
Looking back on it, I think it was horrible. I think that at the time you had NWO versus WCW. You had guys like Luger and Sting represent WCW, which the moment you took those guys out and you put them in the Wolfpack, you immediately made WCW kind of irrelevant there for a few months.
Yeah, I agree.
But at the same time, I guess it was kind of the right move to make, because Sting, being the face of WCW, would have eventually faded away because of Goldberg. So,
yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, if Goldberg... Okay, so if Goldberg would have never gotten the finger poke of doom, or the cattle prod of doom, whatever you want to call it, and lost like he did. If Goldberg wouldn't have lost like he did...
You mean the stun gun?
The stun gun, yeah. He would have probably still been huge, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if Sting was a face and Goldberg lost, then Sting could have stepped up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could have played it off of, like, they could have done an injury angle. Because if you remember correctly, Goldberg, you know, when they did the NWO Elite stuff, and the Wolfpack and the Black and White joined together, and they basically killed the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Goldberg, like, smashed the window trying to, you know, kept forearming the window and fucking ripped all the tendencies, and he had to be out.
Yeah.
And you could have definitely use Sting at that point, because I think Luger could play good guy, bad guy. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should have ever, even though they didn't use Sting, and like, I don't know, man. It's just, in my opinion, they made it to where instead of it was NWO versus WCW, it was corny NWO versus cool NWO, and that was it.
Yeah. WCW got put in the back burner.
But at the same time, they never pulled the trigger and had that legendary, Nash and Hogan match. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there was never that real Wolfpack versus, big wigs of black and white. Like, what was the biggest? Scott Hall and Kevin Nash having that feud?
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, and like, looking back on it, they didn't capitalize. Like, and we're talking about WCW, and we love WCW, but think about this. Within 2 weeks, they killed Goldberg's undefeated streak. And then 2 weeks later, they killed the NWO Wolfpack. So within 2 weeks, you killed your two hottest goddamn things on your program. And you wonder why people stopped watching your show.
Was Kevin Nash behind this, or was this Vince?
Kevin Nash took the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Kevin Nash's idea. The Finger Poke of Doom was his idea. Now, he claims up and down he didn't book himself to beat Goldberg, that was already booked.
Bullshit.
But within 2 weeks of one another, you kill your product. Now, to his defense, he said the ideal was to get the NWO back together and have Goldberg run through all of us to eventually get to Hogan. That was going to be months and months and months and months of build-up until the dumbass Goldberg shredded all the tendons in his fucking arm. So, but at the same time...
But would it have been as effective because his streak was broken?
Well, probably not, because he was fucked over. Like, he didn't lose clean.
Yeah.
He was fucked over. And, they could have always played off of the fact that it took a conspiracy to beat him. It took the Wolfpack, the Black and White, Scott Hall, all these different things in this big master plan to beat Goldberg finally.
Yeah.
And if that was indeed the intent, then I can't blame Nash for thinking that this would work. But when you're doing live television, you've got to keep in mind, what if this guy gets injured? What if this happens? What if that guy? What if this happens? What if that happens? And that's exactly what happened. Goldberg shredded all that tendencies in his fucking forearm, tendons, and they didn't have a backup. Sting, if you remember, was taking time off. He had just, after Halloween Havoc of 98, he fought Bret Hart at that show. Bret Hart hit him with a baseball bat, knocked him unconscious. We didn't see Sting for months after that. So when Sting finally came back, all this NWO Elite shit was already over and done with.
Yeah.
So, that's when he came back and he had the Metallica music.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't no longer the Crow, like...
No, so by the time he came back, Hogan was fucking red and yellow again. Nash was floundering, and they tried to turn Sting heel, remember? At Fall Brawl, it was the black, the red and yellow Hogan who had just... He won the world title. He came out on Nitro, right?
Yeah.
And it was him, Sting, and Goldberg versus Kevin Nash, Sid Vicious, and Rick Steiner.
Yeah.
And everybody was expecting Hollywood Hogan to come out, and he came out in a fucking red and yellow.
That's right.
And at Fall Brawl, Road Wild, him and Kevin Nash had a quote-unquote retirement match where he beat Kevin Nash. We finally got a decent one-on-one match between them, but it was no NWO involved.
Yeah.
NWO was kind of,
kind of on the backswing.
And the next pay-per-view was Fall Brawl, and it was Sting versus Hogan, and it was going to be a babyface versus babyface match. And at the end of the match, Lex Luger came out there, who everybody swore up and down he was going to hit Sting with the baseball bat, but he gave Sting the baseball bat, and Sting hit Hogan and won the title. And he was supposed to be a heel. He was supposed to be a bad guy heel. And the following pay-per-view, it was going to be the rematch, where Sting was going to be the heel and Hogan was going to be the babyface. And Sting came out there, and Hogan came out there in fucking street clothes and laid down, and Sting put his fucking foot over it. And Hogan left. And everybody didn't know what the fuck was going on. Goldberg came out there and took his spot and beat Sting. But the next night, everybody thinks Goldberg won the title. The title was never on the line because it was a substitute, so they gave the title back to Sting the next night. So
wow,
Goldberg...
That's right.
Yeah, so Goldberg was only a one-time WCW champion.
That's fucking crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Like, your fucking white-hot Goldberg has only been a champion one time during his run.
Yeah.
God
but
damn.
my point is, they try to turn Sting heel, and every time they did, it never fucking worked.
Nah, it's not going to work.
It never worked.
He was too much of a babyface for it to work.
And I think that was about the time that Russo came into the company, and I think that was his idea of telling Hogan to go out there and lay. I don't know if they ever explained that away. I don't remember them explaining.
I don't remember them ever talking about that neither. It's very interesting. That's
because
I want to look into now.
Actually. That Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, that was the same pay-per-view where Goldberg and Sid had like the first blood match.
Oh, yeah.
And Goldberg had just came off of beating the absolute holy hell out of Sid and making him bleed, which was premature because Kevin Sullivan had taken the booking back.
Yeah.
And his ultimate big match that he wanted to lead to that year was going to be Sid and Goldberg at Starrcade for the title. The big monster heel versus the big monster babyface. That's what he wanted to do, but it was so much pressure from, WWF had taken back over the ratings, so everything that they had planned out, they had to push forward again. So that's why, the match was like 7 minutes. And
interesting.
All it was Goldberg killing Sid, making him bleed. After Sid had came into the company as a monster, and
but why? But why would they go into like pressure mode, like just to get it done and out the way?
I guess it was TV-driven ratings back then, and everything that they were doing just wasn't working. And people will say that like late '98 is when you can notice the product change on television.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a result of the chaos that would happen backstage. Yeah, I notice it from watching pay-per-views. There's no way that on a pay-per-view in 1998 that I want to see Norman Smiley versus Ernest Miller.
No.
But that's what happened at Fall Brawl.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a roster the way you do. Nobody wants to see that shit. We shouldn't see, Kenny Chaos versus Prince Iaukea on a fucking pay-per-view.
No.
We don't want to see that. And,
Yeah.
you know,
NWO was just too much too quick, and it was a result of a shit show at the end.
yeah.
They lived it hard and fast and burned the candles at both ends too quick.
Yeah, I would say so. And they, I believe that the problems with Kevin Nash and Hogan, and they finally had to split, I think that should have led to a big, probably War Games match that year.
Yeah.
With Wolfpack versus Hollywood, and that should have been kind of the blow off to it. And you didn't have to, like, maybe, you know, the winner of that match got to continue and the loser had to disband.
Yeah. That would have been interesting.
I would have had the Wolfpack win, so we got rid of NWO B Team and all that shit, NWO Hollywood, and
yeah,
you know, eventually you could do storylines where Wolfpack started to have problems with one another, and Nash's ego got too big, or Sting, you know, wanted maybe Nash became world champion, and you know, Sting was like, "Hey, how about giving me a shot?" And Nash is, you know, and you could have eventually eased into disrupting them and ending them.
Yeah.
And because, you know, there were multiple times where Hogan took breaks. You know, you remember like when he retired and he said he was going to run for president on Nitro and all this shit?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do all that, I mean, you might as well disband the fucking group.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, you could make like a new stable
to
go against them. And
if you wanted to bring the group back, think about this. You know, I just said maybe Nash becomes world champ and Goldberg wants a shot at Nash. And just to make sure that he can beat Goldberg, he fucking puts the band back together.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
You know?
That could have been, yeah. But, I mean...
There's many different what-ifs.
Yeah, you know.
All we're doing at this point is looking back, fantasy booking and stuff like that. But, yeah, that was every member of the NWO. That was every incarnation of the group. And
except for the Japan. We didn't touch on that one.
Yeah, we didn't go through every member of the Japan. But just know that the Great Muta and Masachono were the only two Japanese members that joined in the United States.
Yeah, we kept it stateside.
So, you know.
Next we're going to do the Bullet Club.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Because,
I'm kidding.
I mean, we'd have to switch places and my finger would be permanently attached to that button. Yeah, it's like anything after AJ Styles.
Yeah, pretty much your OG Bullet Club. That's it.
You know, maybe we can mention it right here because I'm seriously not doing an episode on it.
I mean, yeah, we can dive into
AJ Styles, Carl Anderson,
Luke Gallows,
who else
Prince
was
Devitt,
Finn
Balor.
Not at the same time as AJ though.
No, he was after.
Yeah.
AJ was after Finn. After Finn left, AJ took over. Then it was Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else was in the group.
Who was the original? It was AJ, Carl, Luke, and who?
What's his name? The Booker, for New Japan.
Ghetto, and
I can't remember.
And it was like one more Japan dude, wasn't it?
It was.
Anyway, I like that group. AJ left, right?
Yeah, he decided to. I think that's when he got signed to WWE.
Came over to WWE. Prince Devitt took over. They just rehashed what they fucking did.
Well, how do you feel about the Bullet Club ripping off the NWO?
The fact that they took their fucking hand signals, the fact that they took their black and white colors, and I don't know why they did it. I guess they thought that because they were in Japan, that it wouldn't have been a big deal. But the fact of the matter is, there was already an NWO in Japan at one time as well. Now, you can argue all day long that the Bullet Club had better in-ring talent than the NWO had. But the effect on the business, as far as, you know, it fails in comparison. Like, the NWO started a revolution. The Bullet Club, at its peak, was a fucking nostalgic act.
Well, I think that they did it to pay tribute to the NWO. They said they thought it was cool, so they did it because they thought it looked cool. And I mean, I can't really like knock them, you know, for doing the hand gesture, but you know.
So Prince Devitt was the original, not AJ Styles.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was Devitt, then AJ, then Kenny.
I thought you said it was AJ, then Devitt.
No, sir. It is Devitt, AJ, Kenny.
Okay, well.
Then you had Bad Luck and the other Samoan guy. I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Which I thought that they were a solid group. You know.
I mean, solid group, but, you know.
Maybe do you think they got popular because it was more like of a nostalgia thing? Like people
Yeah, it was a complete nostalgia thing. People hadn't had a fucking NWO. I mean, you've had groups before, but for whatever reason they never caught on. Because most of the time because they were either in an organization that nobody watched, like TNA.
Yeah.
Or they were in WWE and they lasted for maybe a year, and it was only to break them up and have them feud, like Evolution.
Yeah.
The NWO lasted a few years. The NWO was legitimately a revolution in wrestling. Like I said a little bit earlier, you can say that the Bullet Club had better in-ring performers, but their impact on the business is like, it doesn't even fucking, it's not even in the same atmosphere as the impact of the NWO.
But I think if it wasn't for the Bullet Club, we wouldn't have AEW.
Well, maybe I should get mad at the Bullet Club.
I mean, you love or hate AEW. I mean, at least it's somewhat of an alternative.
It sucks. When's the last episode you watched?
I quit watching it because I couldn't watch it anymore.
Exactly.
But I can't watch WWE neither.
Well, I don't watch WWE either. I watch maybe a random, like if they have a premium event and it's on in the background. I'm not going out of my way to fucking watch last week's Raw because I don't care.
But if I do watch AEW, I find more entertainment in watching AEW than WWE.
I just don't care about anybody that wrestles these days.
That's sad.
It is sad because we're doing a wrestling podcast.
I know. Tell me about it. It's sad that we're...
I don't think that anybody knows how to book a goddamn wrestling show anymore. Maybe it's me. Maybe it is good booking, and I just don't like it.
Maybe you're just a crabby old fuck.
Maybe I'm just a crabby old fuck. I will let you know right now that no modern-day wrestling excites me. I don't think it makes fucking sense. I don't even think a good match these days, I don't even think that it makes sense. Like, yeah, it's good moves, but it doesn't make sense how it's put together. What am I missing? I go back and I watch the network and I watch old wrestling matches and I'm like, okay, this is how you do it. A, B, C, D, boom, finish. And now it's just all this like every match has to be treated a certain way, I guess. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it.
Like, are you saying, like, you don't, like, understand, like, modern-day wrestling?
I don't understand why Jon Moxley and CM Punk in your main event, right, for your title, I don't understand why Hangman Page and MJF, I don't see why both of those matches will be the exact same carbon copy of each other. They will be treated the same. They will be presented the same. They will be false finishes the same. They will be almost the same length in time. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Gotcha. Yeah.
I don't understand if
you don't understand why every match is the same. Like,
I don't understand why from your very first match until your main event there you can't tell the difference. I don't know why you can't just have one guy go in the ring, do his finisher, and beat a motherfucker. Why does every single match, everybody has to kick out of everybody's shit multiple goddamn times? Why?
Put over how strong they are.
But you're in the third fucking match!
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, I'm just telling you.
It makes your main event look like shit.
I'm with you.
I mean,
on this.
And there's no build-up anymore. There's no interesting build-up anymore. Everything is fucking rushed.
Yeah, every match tries to outshine the next one to the point where the main event just gets shit on. By the time you get to the main event, you don't even want to see it.
In professional wrestling, there used to be a pecking order. There's no pecking order anymore.
No.
There's no fucking pecking order. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. Somebody can say, well, that's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing. Because certain people get over and win matches that shouldn't win. That they're not ready. And then they get a championship and it fucking totally fails.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you on this
one. Or they
actually
get a championship and they don't want to do what champions are supposed to do.
Oh, you mean be a champion?
Yeah, like be a champion, you know, like present yourself as a champion. Fucking, yeah, that good shit.
That good shit. Well, I think you got that out of your system a little bit. We can probably spend the next 2 hours talking about modern day wrestling.
Yeah, I just wanted to go over NWO members.
Yeah, which it's been real. It's been fun. We want to say thank you for listening to the Strong Style Podcast. Until next time, I'm James.
And I'm Todd. Fuck your sister or something or another.
Have a nice day.